Well, welcome to another edition of Ask a Responsive Fundraiser, where we take your questions to a fundraising expert so that ultimately you can grow generosity. Today, we're taking your questions to Brantley Boyett. Brantley, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Hey, we're going to jump right in with the first question, which is this. We've never focused on planned giving before, and it feels overwhelming to start. So what's the best first step that we can take to learn more and introduce our donors to this type of giving?
So there are a bunch of planned giving consultants, many planned giving marketing companies, and there are also a number of platforms like Giving Docs, where I work, that can help people build planned giving programs. But none of those, I think, are a first step. So for many people just starting out, I think it's most important for you to know that if you're going to start a program, you need to have human resources to commit, because planned gifts are very emotional gifts, and donors often want a relationship with the people at the organization to get started and to keep the organization in their plans throughout the rest of their lives after they've made the gift. So if you've determined that your organization has someone who can actually talk to people about planned gifts, then the next step is kind of making sure that you have organizational buy-in. So you need to get leadership on board, that it makes sense to commit human resources to planned giving, and that the human resources and the finances are going to be there to support the program over the long haul, because it does take a while for planned gifts to come in, even after you've started to get commitments. And every person at the organization should kind of be educated as to the value of planned giving and why. So you're going to want to also, get people at the organization involved and interested and excited about this. And then the last thing that I always tell people to think about when they're starting a program is that they'll need to create a legacy society to recognize donors and make them feel like they're part of a seen community. And it's something that they don't want to leave. So I've seen organizations get caught up on the name and, what's it going to be? And I don't think it's all that important. You can pick a famous donor or something that relates to the organization, but getting that in place and then getting that lead donor to help start the society is really kind of that first integral step to moving forward.
Yeah, that's super helpful. All right, question number 2. We're finding it challenging to make planned giving a natural part of our current fundraising approach. It often feels separate or like an afterthought. So what are some strategies to integrate it more into our existing efforts?
So I think the most important thing, and the really successful planned giving programs that we work with have buy-in across all the departments at the nonprofit. So coming from the top, the finance team is going to need to see the value in it in order to commit resources long-term, like I talked about earlier, because the money can take a long time to come in. And annual giving is also going to have to see it as valuable add-on to their efforts, so they can identify shared marketing opportunities, and also they can farm out interesting prospects for you. I think the most important relationship at the organization will be with the major giving team. So major giving and planned giving are often siloed at organizations, and they're not communicating like they could. But if you think about it, the most likely planned giving donors are also major donors and vice versa. Yeah. So sharing marketing efforts and prospects between the two departments should come more naturally than it often does. And even sometimes they view each other as competitive. And then lastly, getting the marketing team on board is super important as well. Organizations often have a marketing calendar that applies to all types of giving. So, fighting for space in that busy calendar is part of the challenge of, getting a planned giving program off the ground, and you really need to get buy-in there as well. So at Giving Docs, our most successful partners integrate the planned giving ask in all kinds of ways. They can append it to the end of a survey. It can be an option as an alternate way to give instead of an annual gift ask. They can announce it at galas, bring it up in meetings with individual donors. And when it's really integrated everywhere at the organization, that's when planned giving is going to be most successful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good. All right. Number 3, we have a lot of donor data, but we're not sure how to use it to identify people who might be open to planned giving. So how can we leverage our current database to find the right people for this?
Yeah, this is the age-old question of who are the right people to get us planned gifts. And it's different in every organization, and everyone's using different systems and has different data. I mean, I think the things to focus on here are who's in your database is the most loyal, who's the most engaged, who is focusing on, increasing their contributions. And these are all things that we kind of think of as affinity for the organization, right?
Yeah.
So who's got the highest affinity? However your data looks, try to figure that out. And once you do that, you can kind of segment the donors and apply predictive analytics to flag potential people who might want to leave you a plain gift. Surveys, as I mentioned earlier, direct outreach can also gauge interest and uncover existing plans that you didn't even know about. So for most organizations, currently, roughly 70% of the plan gifts that come in the door, they don't know about. Knowing about them helps you kind of build that buy-in from the finance team, right? So if you have gifts under management, that's really important to know, because that'll help you get leadership behind you on this plan giving program. Another thing you can do to identify prospects is wealth screening. There are a number of ways that you can do that, and different vendors that can do that for you. But I think that's super helpful in identifying whether someone, has the capacity to give a plain gift.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Last question. Question number 4. Our supporters want to include us in their estate plans, but many feel unsure about how to take that next step. How can we guide them through the process in a way that feels approachable and clear?
Yeah, so awesome. If someone's indicated intent to leave a plain gift, we call those hand raisers over here. Great news. I think, the thing that we are careful of over here, and that we always tell the people we work with to be careful of, is you're not their attorney. We're not their attorney. You can't give these people legal advice. And I think it's always important to let donors know that it's a great idea to consult with a local attorney about their estate plan. For reasons, people might not want to go to an attorney. They might use an online service like ours, but I think it's always good to kind of get out and encourage that behavior. I think even when people come to our platform, we encourage them to consult with an attorney. And it's fine if they don't, if they feel confident. But if they're not planning to use an attorney or a service, I think it's totally fine for you to share your organization's EIN and let them know if your organization has specific language that they like to see included in someone's will related to gifts to the organization. And I think it's also a great time to have a talk about how they want their gift to be used by the organization. So some people are totally fine with it going to the general fund. Other people may want it to go to a specific program. And that is something that needs to go in their plan, whether they're creating it on their own or working with an attorney. You'll want to share the language that the organization requires to distribute the funds to a certain specific program if you do that. You can direct them to a list of local estate planning attorneys or the State Bar website to find attorneys. And, it's some organizations direct people to specific groups of attorneys. You have to be a little careful there that you're not creating problems with families later on. But essentially, you want to be as hands-off in that process as possible after giving them all the information they need. Of course, there are online estate planning tools that people use, like I mentioned earlier. But ultimately, we want to be, encouraging people to take control of their legal identity. And often that means consulting with an attorney or educating themselves.
Yeah, that's great. Brantley, thanks so much for taking the time today to share your expertise, your wisdom, and your experience. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.